You are now watching a clip from the Inspired by show. You can watch the full episode on our YouTube channel or listen on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to head over there, leave us a 5-star rating if you enjoyed it, and follow the show. Losing it all and having that environment where there's no stability makes us crave stability. And I remember when the very first time I lost it all myself and I went seriously ill, mentally ill, depression, anxiety, and so on. And it's one of those things where I didn't realize I had that pattern until I experienced it. And I was like, oh, this is where it's showing up. Have you had that in your life where it showed up, where you've realized, oh, this is where it's come from?
Well, yeah, every time we almost go bankrupt. No, like honestly, on a serious note, in my early 20s, when my husband and I first got involved with property, we were the classic hungry entrepreneurs. We knew we were capable of more, and we sat down on a beanbag and Googled get rich quick. What could possibly go wrong, Chloe? That's when we got involved in our first off-plan development. And to be fair, on paper, it really should have worked, but I'll not bore you with all the details. The development got flooded. The whole thing got postponed by several years. And by the time it was actually finished, we were smack bang in the middle of the global recession. And a property that should have been worth about 200 grand was worth 60 grand. And that was the first time that I'd really experienced that fear, and it brought up all the emotions from my childhood. At one point we had 6 weeks to come up with about 40 grand, or they were coming after us. They were going to start court proceedings. At the time, my husband and I were living in a property that he had before we met. It was probably worth about 80 grand. We just had a pair of old secondhand cars. He was a electrician. I was on a low paid 20 grand a year job. We had no way to come up with that capital. But it was a case of burn the ships. Failure is not a fucking option. And we came up with that money, but it did take its toll on my mental health. I don't want it to just seem it's like, yeah, burn the ships, let's just do it. Hustle, grind. It was like, yeah, we did all that hustle, grind, then breakdown, And that's the part that I really want to emphasize with people, because I think they just listen to my story and they're like, yes, there's resilience that's been cultivated over the years, but that's me at age 40 now, able to kind of discuss that with a level of authority. 23 or 24 or 25-year-old Ellie, whatever I was back then, definitely didn't have those levels of resistance. And at that point, I was very happy to have the 9 to 5, to have the regular income, to know when I was getting paid, exactly how much I was getting paid. And that was very, very important to me at the time. But like every entrepreneur, that's not the end of the story. That was just the beginning, really. And my husband was less risk averse than I was. And he then went and set up his own electrical business. And to a degree of success as well. I mean, his business partner, who's also called Mark, still our business partner actually in the property business. They launched Combined Electrical. And in 2016, they had 18 guys working for them, and a national contractor went under, owing us a significant amount of money at the time. And they made a decision to go and get a bank loan to pay the 18 lads, knowing that decision could cost us the business. It could have been enough to topple the scales and we'd have to file for bankruptcy. Thankfully, we didn't. We hung on literally by a thread. We never got that money. We were due about 75 grand. And for a company the size of ours, that was a huge, huge chunk of cash. It's all very relative, but for us, that was absolutely massive at the time. And yet again, I was in that situation of feeling helpless. We weren't sure whether or not we'd be able to keep the family home. We had our young daughter, Sienna, at the time. I was very heavily pregnant with our second daughter, Isabella. And yeah, she was born in the midst of all the chaos. It was just, she was a ray of sunshine, really, in a very, very dark time. But there was post-natal depression, there was panic attacks, there was a lot of issues. Notwithstanding, my husband, this is an overshare. It's an overshare, and I need to stop sharing it.
We love overshares.
It's like
Bring it on.
So it just comes out, this story. So this is true. This is a God's honest truth. So on the Monday, my husband is booked in to get the snip. We had our 2 children. We were very happy with our decision to have 2 children. Isabella was only 3 months old. We had all of this madness going on around us. And the Friday before he was due for his consultation, I found out I was pregnant with our 3rd and definitely final little boy, Sammy. So it was like, what the fuck? He's 5.5 now. He is my blue-eyed boy. I just think the universe gives you what you need, not necessarily what you ask for. And my God, we could not love the bones off that boy anymore. He is just absolutely amazing. But of course, at the time, it didn't necessarily feel like that. It just felt like you were having grenade after grenade after grenade chucked at you. I remember sitting down with Mark and just saying, look, is this worth it? Is this stress really worth it? Because although I wasn't directly involved in the business, we were a very, very close unit. Every night he was coming home discussing with me in the good times and the bad. I was involved at a high level in the decision making and things like that. And as an electrician, as a sole trader, he was always very talented, very sought after. He always commanded more money than the average spark, significantly more. And he was probably earning, bearing in mind this is over 10 years ago, and in the north of England as well, where salaries are significantly lower, but he was probably getting 60 or 70 grand back then. And I said, are you thinking maybe we should go back on the tools and have that financial security? And we spoke about it long and hard, but we decided that there was no way we'd been through everything that we'd been through not to be successful. And we've actually got something in our office wall, and I look at it every single day, and it still inspires me, because every day there is still challenges and there is still times where you question your sanity doing what we do. And it says, we haven't come this far to only come this far. There's no way we had been through the blood, the sweat, and lots of tears, waking up in the middle of the night with heart palpitations, wondering how we're going to pay the bills, pay the wages, keep afloat, keep a roof over our home, over our head. But we made the decision to continue. It wasn't like one of these Hollywood moments where you make the decision and everything just starts clicking into place. I wish it was like that, but no, the universe had other ideas. It had another few grenades to keep on chucking at us before that point. And yeah, so that was 2016. 2018, so Sammy's less than a year old at this point, I found out I was getting made redundant whilst I was still on maternity leave. And it was one of those situations, I don't know if you can relate to this, Chloe, where what feels like the worst day of your life ends up being one of the best days of your life. And that was kind of my sliding doors moment. Had that not happened, I can't honestly say whether I would be sat here today. I don't mean as in alive. I just mean in this particular studio having this particular conversation, you know?
Yeah.